Um, can I have your attention, please? Good morning. Good morning again. Um, we are running late behind schedule, but our chief guest is on the way here, and the other senior dignitaries are also within the building. So in a few minutes, please bear with us. We beg your indulgence. We will be starting the program very shortly. We are very sorry for that delay. Thank you.
Check 1 2. Can you hear? Check 1 2. Check 1 2. Check 1 2. Check 1 2. There's no echo. Check 1 2. Check 1 2. Hebu muulize. Check 1 2. Check. Can you get it? Check 1 2. Check 1 2. Okay. Check. Check 1 2. Check 1 2. Check 1 2. Check 1 2 1 2. Check 1 2. Check 1 2 1 2 1 2. Check 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 1 2. No sure. Check 1 2. Check 1 2. Check 1 2. Check 1 2 1 2. Check 1 2. Check 1 2. Check 1 2 1 2. Check 1 2. Check 1 2. Check 1 2 1 2. Hapo ikuji bado. Check. Check 1 2. Check 1 2. Check. Check 1 2 1 2. Check 1 2.
We are testing the sound now.
Check 1 2 1 2. Check 1 2. Check 1 2 1 2. Check 1 2 1 2. Check.
I want you to listen on your
Check 1 2.
the sound on Zoom. Okay, you are getting sound.
Check 1 2 1 2. Check 1 2. Check. Check. Check 1 2. Check 1 2. Check. Check 1 2 1 2. Mic test. Check 1 2. Check. Now up is it haiko.
Excuse me again. So our chief guest is coming in. So I humbly request that we are all upstanding as he enters the room, please. Let us all be upstanding. I'm sure he's just saying hello. Being a political leader, it's very easy to be ambushed on the way. So he's just maybe saying hello to a few people in the lobby. This is where you get, you are lost of words, but I'm sure he's on his way here. I think it's also a good opportunity for you to stretch your legs. I know you've been sitting since morning, so please just keep your legs warm as we wait for him to come in. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, we have our chief guest in the room, His Excellency Right Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga, who is the Africa Union High Representative for Infrastructure Development in Africa. I would also request Sudan Ambassador to come and join. We also need the representative of the Cabinet Secretary, Foreign Affairs, to join the stage, and the representative from Africa Development Bank, Mr. Hassan Iman. So please get seated. Thank you very much. Your Excellency, Right Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga, His Excellency Dr. Wakne Gabriehu, the Executive Secretary of IGAD, His Excellency Ambassador Magdi from Sudan, representing the chair of IGAD, Ambassador Salim,
Recording in progress.
who is representing the Cabinet Secretary, Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Kenya. Your Excellencies, all protocols observed. I would like to take this opportunity to welcome you all to this August gathering, the Development Partners Roundtable on IGAD infrastructure, that will start today, Tuesday 23rd, through to the 25th on Thursday. And without further ado, I would like to request His Excellency Ambassador Dr. Wakne to take over the floor, and he will be our director for this ceremony. Your Excellency, sir.
Good morning, everybody. Our guest of honor, the Right Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga, the African Union High Representative for Infrastructure, Your Excellencies, representatives of Cabinet Secretary for Energy from Kenya, Your Excellencies, Ministers, and Cabinet Secretaries from our member states, Excellency Ambassador Magid Ahmed Mafdal, representing our chair, Sudan, dear ambassadors of our member countries, media, all protocols are observed, and let me start my welcome remarks this morning by officially welcoming our guest of honor, the Right Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga, the African Union High Representative for Infrastructural Development. Your Excellency, your presence here today is a testimony of the commitment at the highest level to the integration of this region and the entire African continent. Allow me also to extend our gratitude to the ministers, cabinet secretaries, and high-level representatives of our IGAD member states present at this meeting. Your Excellencies, your presence here is also a testimony of our solidarity and shared determination to connect our regions through infrastructure. This will transform and uplift the living condition of the millions of our brothers and sisters living and working in this region and beyond. I also thank our group of dedicated development partners who are with us at this morning. IGAD deeply appreciates the critical contribution you continue to make to this development of our region. Your Excellencies, we have convened here with the recognition that although infrastructural development is an expensive undertaking, more is lost by not investing in infrastructure than it would cost us to spend on it. And this is because after peace and security, the lack of infrastructure is the second most serious barrier to trade and our economic development. Indeed, in recent times, our region has been in a state of turmoil which poses significant repercussions for our overall integration agenda and regional infrastructure development in particular. The uncertainty fostered by the ongoing conflict in Ethiopia, the state of governance transition in Sudan, as well as the recent terrorist attack in Uganda, constitute a risk of eroding investor confidence in development programming and threaten to stall or even roll back infrastructural investment and all other our activities in economic and social field. I am, however, encouraged by the positive developments we have witnessed in these areas. In particular, Right Honorable IGAD welcomes the reinstatement of Prime Minister Hamdok and the restoration of civilian rule in Sudan. I commend the efforts that have been made so far by the friends and partners of IGAD who have working tirelessly to foster the constructive dialogue that led to this positive outcome. IGAD is also addressing and working very closely with our partners in the situation of Ethiopia and further appreciates the effort by regional leaders, especially His Excellency President Uhuru Kenyatta, who has lent his boundless energy to support the re-establishment of security and stability in Ethiopia. Furthermore, we continue to support the Federal Republic of Somalia at its rollout the electoral process and proffer our sincere congratulations for the successful conclusion of election of the Upper House of Representatives. IGAD remains optimistic that the upcoming election of the Lower House of Representatives in December and the presidential polls will be conducted in similarly peaceful and credible manner. Moreover, IGAD takes this opportunity once again loudly and unequivocally condemn all acts of terror and violent extremism in our region and beyond. Our position in IGAD is the peaceful dialogue is the only sustainable avenue to address the grievances that inspire senseless acts of violence. In this regard, therefore, IGAD is committed to continue engaging with all partners across the region to ensure the necessary conditions for our aspiration of peace, prosperity, and regional integration. In addition to the challenges in peace and security, Your Excellencies, our region is also constrained by low stock of infrastructure, and the consequence, regional integration has fallen short of expectation. The 2019 African Regional Integration Index concluded that IGAD is approximately 43.8% integrated with 4 IGAD member states, South Sudan, Eritrea, and Somalia, having the least integrated infrastructure on the continent. The data also shows that inadequate infrastructure shaves off at least 2% of African annual economic growth. However, at the same time, Your Excellencies, there is great potential of gains considering that the establishment of adequate infrastructure would lead to productivity gains by Africa firms of up to 40%. Our meeting today, therefore, Your Excellencies, aims to create awareness, build confidence, and secure support for the policy initiatives and priorities investment as reflected in the IGAD Regional Infrastructure Master Plan, which was developed with the support of the African Development Bank. The IGAD Master Plan identifies transboundary water resources, ICT, energy, transport, and infrastructure as essential segments to unlock growth potential of the development sectors in our economies. It will help in facilitating trade and integration by bridging the gap in national and regional policies and strategies, and addressing infrastructural needs, including conflict-affected remote and pastoralist areas. Notably, Your Excellencies, the IGAD Regional Infrastructure Master Plan is designed to contribute to the continental integration agenda. As reflected in the Abuja Treaty, the Constitutive Act of the African Union, Agenda 2063, and the Program for Infrastructural Development in Africa, it is also instructive to note that this master plan comes to a critical stage as Africa has begun implementing the Continental Free Trade Area. Notably, the IGAD Infrastructure Master Plan is structured to complement the implementation of the protocols on free movement of persons and transhuman, which are essential enablers of trade facilitation in our region, which we have endorsed in our region as a first very important step for our regional integration. Your Excellencies, this meeting provides us with a unique opportunity to further realize the aims and objectives reflected in Article 7F of the agreement established IGAD, that I quote, develop and improve a coordinated and complementary infrastructure, particularly in the area of transport and energy. Therefore, Your Excellencies, I call upon all of us to seize the opportunity that regional infrastructure development offers as a mechanism of strengthening the ties that bind us inseparably together in this region, based on the principles of brotherhood and fruitful cooperation, to build our capacity for collective self-resilience by pooling our collective resources on the basis of equality and mutual benefit in order to achieve infrastructural and economic integration. I therefore urge all our member states and partners at this roundtable meeting to support infrastructural development in the IGAD region at the highway and pathway to peace and prosperity. I will conclude my remarks by reiterating that when goods do not cross borders, soldiers will. In other words, regional interdependence, especially through trade, is one of the most effective deterrent of conflict. In this regard, I emphasize IGAD remains invested in regional infrastructure development as a path to live of interdependence needed to forge deeper unity and integration in our region. Thank you very much. Asante sana.
Protocol breach, and I'm back. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, after the speech from the Executive Secretary of IGAD, the next speaker will be our host, Kenya, and we call upon Ambassador Salim to deliver the speech of Her Excellency the CS, Rachel Omamo, who for one reason or another could not join us. Your Excellency, Ambassador Salim.
The African Union Special Envoy for Infrastructure, the Right Honorable Raila Odinga, IGAD Executive Secretary, Dr. Gibeyehu, the Chairman of IGAD Council of Ministers, ministers here present, ambassadors, excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. As has been said, the Cabinet Secretary for Foreign Affairs would have really have liked to have been with you here today and deliver a few remarks to welcome you to this roundtable in Kenya. But duties have taken her elsewhere, so it falls upon me to quickly read to you what she would have wanted to say to you during this meeting. Ladies and gentlemen, at the onset, let me say that I'm glad to address this important gathering. As we are all aware, infrastructure is a crucial component for development, if not the most important. We are therefore gathered here today to discuss this very crucial and very important sector that plays a pivotal role in our quest for integration and economic prosperity. When the Intergovernmental Authority for Development, as it is known today, was formed to replace the former Intergovernmental Authority on Drought and Development, one of the reasons for the change was an acknowledgement that the challenges facing the regions were not merely just drought and food security, that they went beyond and they were deeper. And you had to look at issues of economics and integration and so on. So this is a very apt meeting today, where you are going to discuss on issues of regional and infrastructural connectivity. In 2006, the heads of states and government recognized that to spur economic growth in the region, collectively our infrastructure had to be improved, particularly those relating to communication, energy, transport, and specifically land, air, and sea, to maximize interregional trade. However, we have faced setbacks in some ways. Our region has relatively low infrastructure levels. Trade costs in the region are approximately 95% higher in this region. We are faced with low reliable and available communication services. Most alarming, there is a relatively low inter-regional trade in our region. It is against this backdrop that we are here today to find more ways to support our regional infrastructural development and enhance our economic and infrastructural integration. In this respect, I would like to commend IGAD for its initiative in formulating the IGAD Regional Infrastructure Master Plan of 2020. The master plan is uniquely regional. It takes into account unique shared needs, particular to this space. It has in its goal poverty eradication, regional integration, and once implemented, aims to enhance regional physical and economic integration. I particularly commend its plan to reduce a certain isolationism. Now more than ever, we we are faced with a borderless world. We are in a unique region with shared ethnicities and history. We can only overcome the challenges that come with this by working together. I therefore call on all member states to fully support these arrangements and use these 3 days to formulate concrete interventions. I also call on representatives of the international community and the private sector present here today to use this forum as a means of adopting a new perspective, a new look of dealing with the region, not as a region dependent on aid, but as a region ripe for investment. Now, with those few words on behalf of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and on behalf of the Republic of Kenya, I take this opportunity to welcome you all to Nairobi and wish you successful deliberations for the upcoming 3 days. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency, Ambassador Salim, for delivering that inspiring statement from the Cabinet Secretary, Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Republic of Kenya. Our next speaker is the representative of the chair of IGAD, Council of Ministers, His Excellency Ambassador Mahdi Ahmed Mofadil. Your Excellency, you have the floor.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. The Right Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga, the AU High Representative for Infrastructure Development, Honorable Ministers, Ambassadors, and members of the Diplomatic Corps, Mr. Hussein Iman, Manager of Infrastructure and Private Sector in the African Development Bank, Your Excellency, Dr. Warkana Jibriyehu, Executive Secretary of IGAD, representatives of our development partners, our partners from the private sector, our partners from the media, ladies and gentlemen, all protocol observed. It gives me great pleasure to address this August gathering this morning on behalf of the chairperson of the IGAD Council of Ministers. I would like to extend warm greetings to all of you from the government and people of Sudan who are struggling to charter their way in the troubled waters of the most difficult, complex, and complicated transition the country ever had. We are very determined to steward the ship of democratic transition to its final destination. Honorable Ministers, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to start by thanking the government and people of the sisterly Republic of Kenya for the hospitality accorded to all delegations and also for hosting us in this very important forum. Our thanks and appreciation go to IGAD Secretariat, especially the Department of Economic Cooperation and Regional Integration, for their relentless efforts in preparing for this meeting. We also thank the African Development Bank and other development partners for their generous support and contribution to the IGAD Regional Infrastructure Master Plan and for this meeting. We also thank our partners in the private sector and the media for their participation in this meeting. it will be remiss of me to go without thanking the management and staff of Crown Plaza Hotel for their efforts to ease our stay in this hotel. Honorable Ministers, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, the importance of infrastructure to achieve our vision of a prosperous, peaceful, and integrated IGAD region cannot be overestimated. Infrastructures are crucial in our efforts for poverty reduction, enhancement of trade, movement of people and goods, attracting investment, providing employment opportunities for our youth, digital transformation, as well as in reducing the cost of power and transport to move our economies. Therefore, they are the engines of economic growth and regional integration. All the priority areas of IGAD interventions, namely food security and environment protection, economic cooperation, regional integration, and social development, as well as peace and security, are closely linked to infrastructure development. We cannot achieve our desired goals in IGAD without proper development of regional infrastructure in transport, energy, ICT, and transboundary water resources. Sudan, as the current chair of IGAD, will do its utmost with all our partners to achieve the objective of this forum and to move forward for a better connected region and efficient and effective institutions that provide the required services to our people. We look forward to work closely with all of you to achieve that end. Honorable Ministers, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, huge resources are needed to implement the IGAD Regional Infrastructure Master Plan. We call upon our development partners to continue supporting us to make this plan a reality, taking into account the host of challenges that our region is currently facing, namely the impact of COVID-19 of our economies, peace and security, political instability on some member countries of IGAD, drought, desertification, and desert locust, and other challenges. In Sudan, we are planning to maintain, modernize, and expand the infrastructure that link us with other IGAD countries, especially our neighbors in South Sudan and Ethiopia, and Eritrea. For Sudan Development Corridor is available to serve our sisters and brothers in South Sudan and Ethiopia, as well as other countries, as countries outside IGAD region. For us, IGAD infrastructure is not only to serve the people of our region and enhance the trade and movement of people and goods with other parts of the world. We also look to this infrastructure as important steps in achieving continental integration and connecting us in Africa with other parts of the world. In this respect, we are working to achieve the following objectives in the medium and long term. Firstly, using infrastructure to contribute to achieving peace, security, and stability through balanced development in the country and addressing marginalizations of some sections of our population. Secondly, contributing to protecting the environment through the African Green Wall that extends from Senegal to Djibouti. Thirdly, contributing to regional food security by unleashing the huge potential of the country in agriculture and agribusiness. Fourthly, connecting the IGAD with other regional economic communities through the neighboring countries of Sudan. Namely, we are targeting our sisters and brothers in CEMAC and ECOWAS through our neighbors in Central Africa and Chad, Egypt, and the countries of the Arab Maghreb, and the countries of the Middle East through Egypt and Libya. Also, we are targeting to develop our air transport infrastructure to enhance aviation security and modernize it, and to ease air transport between Asia and Latin America. Thus, it is clear that Sudan is very important in the continental free trade area and for connecting Africa with other parts of the world. We call on all our partners to support us in achieving this noble goal and in overcoming decades of sanctions and isolation. I conclude by thanking all of you for listening and wishing you fruitful deliberations and safe return home for those who are traveling. I thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ambassador, for delivering that statement from the chair of the IGAD Council of Ministers. The next speaker who is going to speak is the representative of the Africa Development Bank, the manager in charge of infrastructure and the private sector, Mr. Hussein Iman. These masks can really betray us. He was seated out there and I could not recognize him, and I apologize for that. Welcome, my brother.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Wachendo. I'm here representing Mr. Iman Hussein, who could not make it because of other duties that were given to him. I'm representing the African Development Bank. Your Excellency, the Right Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga, Your Excellency Dr. Wokne Gebeyu, we know one another from a long time. The ambassadors, council, chair, delegates, ladies and gentlemen, it's my great pleasure to be able to stand before you as a representative of the African Development Bank to participate and give my remarks on behalf of the bank to you. First of all, I'd like to congratulate IGAD, who are our partners in development and very effective ones, and the bank as well, and the government of the member states of Kenya, Uganda, Ethiopia, South Sudan, Djibouti, Sudan, Eritrea, and Somalia for coming together and cooperating fully to study and complete this study on master infrastructure for the IGAD region. The act of coming together is a good sign, and it fosters peace and puts a good background for creating wealth for the nations. And I believe that a rich neighbor is a good neighbor. And in creating wealth, which is all about development, infrastructure is a key element in it. And in that respect, the African Development Bank has put infrastructure in the center of its strategy, in its actions, in its funding, in all its operations, infrastructure is at the center of its strategic plan, the long-term plan it has. Furthermore, in the recent past, the strategic plan has been put in a capsule, 5, what we call the high fives, to clarify and crystallize the intentions of the bank as far as its development agenda is concerned. We have 5 key objectives. One of them is to light Africa. We want to energize Africa. The other one is to integrate Africa, to bring them together. The other one is key, to industrialize Africa. We also want to feed Africa and improve the lives of African people. Those are the 5 key objectives that have come together to represent the objectives of the bank. And in all this, infrastructure is key. There is no way we can achieve any of those objectives unless we have infrastructure. We need energy. We need clean energy. We need cheap energy. And we need energy available all the time. We need an integrated system of energy supply, energy generation, which is what we are working towards. In order to be able to do sustainable development, we must have a sustainable supply of energy. There is no way we can industrialize unless we have energy. So we need energy to produce goods, and we need energy to drive industrialization. There's no way Africa will grow rich unless it produces goods. And that is one of the objectives of the bank. Transport infrastructure is so important because we believe, and it is true, that trade takes place through transport infrastructure. In order to move goods from point A to point B, you must have transport infrastructure, particularly in our case, road transport infrastructure. We have to move goods, we have to move people, we have to move food. We should not have people in regions of deficit food suffering, lack, when there are places with surplus food. Transport infrastructure will play its role in moving goods, and particularly food, where it's needed. Furthermore, we cannot also develop in isolation. That is why integration of economies, systems, in every way possible, whether it is IT, transport, energy production and transmission, integration for us is very key. And also the political sphere, because when we bring integration, peace, and the benefits of that comes out of it, which has been mentioned by previous speakers. So integration is very important. And in order to integrate, we also now put together the infrastructure at the center of the integration. So what have we been doing? As a bank, we have been in the center of development in infrastructure in Africa. And in this region of IGAD, we have found ourselves with a neighbor partner who has a powerful convening capabilities, which is already shown in this roundtable meeting of ministers, government representatives, private sector, and development partners. And the bank has been in the center of development of infrastructure in this region. We have funded energy projects connecting Ethiopia and Djibouti. I believe we were the first to take clean energy to Djibouti produced in Ethiopia. We are also working on a very long transmission project to transfer energy again from Ethiopia to Kenya. We have worked on the East African power pools, which will enable the trading of energy and the benefits of not only the economies, but also a stable supply of energy. We have funded multinational transport projects. In Kenya, we have connected Kenya to Tanzania, Kenya to Uganda, Uganda to South Sudan. We are working on a major project there. We have worked on Ethiopia, Djibouti projects. We have worked on Tanzania, Rwanda, Burundi. All these countries, we have worked on transport projects to connect. The latest, of course, is the Nairobi is Moyale to Awasa project, which is completed. It's taken us about 10 years, but we have 1,000 kilometers of very good road moving from Isiolo in northern Kenya to Awasa in the central part of Ethiopia. We have also been building capacity, and this is probably where we have to start thinking forward. In order to move forward now in infrastructure development, we believe that capacity is key, and we must develop capacity of institutions that build that implement infrastructure projects. And these are usually government departments, it is agencies, and we think and believe, and we have seen that where there is lack of capacity, the implementation is not as well as where there is capacity. So one of the things that, even as we discuss among ourselves how to develop infrastructure using the master plan that is developed, we must consider capacity of institutions, capacity of government agencies that are implementing this. Not only the capacity of government agencies, but the capacity of the private sector to participate in the big bids, the big money that development of infrastructure brings. Infrastructure development should not be, like an importation of a good. It should be a means through which a government sort of distributes wealth to the people through the purchase of goods and services and works through using the investment money. When you invest $100 million in a project in a country A, how much better would it be if we could spend $100 million in that country buying goods and buying services and buying works in that specific country? That would be wealth that is created in that country. So we have to think and come up with the schemes and ways in which we can build the capacity of our local contractors and consultants and suppliers of goods so that a lot of the money that is being invested in infrastructure remains within the people. So we call upon the governments and all development agencies and all those who are involved in the development of infrastructure to consider financial markets deepening so that there is financing in partnership, to consider supporting contracting capacity build-up, consultancy capacity build-up. The bank is committed, and that's a message we have, to work with everybody, our development partners, our governments, institutions that bring together like IGAD and others. We are committed to working together to bring about development in infrastructure and the whole economy of our region. I thank you and I wish you a successful deliberations. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency, for that statement from the Africa Development Bank, who have really been our biggest supporter for this particular program. Without further ado, I would like to once again call upon His Excellency, the Executive Secretary of IGAD, to do the honors, to invite our chief guest to deliver his statement. Your Excellency, sir.
Thank you very much, moderator. I know our guest of honor is very passionate about infrastructure. And we are very honored to have him here. He was working tirelessly on the agenda of integration of our region. So I call to the podium the most passionate, practical leader of our region, especially on this area of infrastructure, the Right Honorable Raila Omolo Odinga. Please, Your Excellency.
Thank you. The Executive Director of IGAD, Dr. Wokne Gimeyehu, Honorable Ministers who are here this morning, Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I want to say that my office is represented here by my executive director, Ambassador Elkanah Odembo, who is in the audience. I want him to be seen there. And I have also Mr. Mohammed Samatar, who is also going to be here with you people. I want to say that I'm very delighted to have an opportunity to be with you here this morning. I canceled my other engagements today to come and be here. And I'm very pleased that this meeting is taking place at this very critical time in our region here, the IGAD region. As you know, this region is experiencing some very fundamental challenges in terms of security, but I believe strongly that these challenges are actually solvable with determination. Some of them can actually be solved through development of efficient infrastructure. You've seen in this country that where there was insecurity before, when the infrastructure was developed to pass through those areas, the insecurity disappeared and economic activities actually rose up in those regions. And therefore, you are engaged in a very important activity today here. I say that Africa's infrastructure gap continues to remain wide. It also continues to stifle the continent's socio-economic growth. Africa's road network deficit is estimated at a minimum of 60,000 kilometers by the year 2040, while the rail network gap is estimated at about 30,000 kilometers in the same period. At the same time, the continent urgently needs some 17 new airports and 7 seaports. Of greatest significance is the energy infrastructure deficit. Africa's current total installed capacity is a mere 140 gigawatts against the production target of 700 gigawatts by the year 2040. Closer home, within the IGAD region, the figures are not any better. The IGAD Infrastructure Master Plan indicates numerous missing links in roads, rail, ICT, water transport, and power transmission lines. The master plan also has numerous unexploited and underdeveloped energy sources, many of which are green, renewable, and sustainable sources. The IGAD Infrastructure Master Plan has highlighted the short-term priority projects. There are 61 projects in transport, 9 projects in energy, 14 projects in the ICT, and 5 projects in transport transboundary waterways. These are projects that need to be implemented by the year 2024, 3 years from today, at a cost of $34 billion US. While it is commendable that the master plan was completed in the year 2020, it is important to note that the recommendation to develop an IGAD regional infrastructure plan dates back to the year 2010. This therefore speaks volumes about the continent's slow pace of action on infrastructure, the most important enabler of trade among our nations. 10 years just to develop a master plan. We need to take note that the countries of South Asia and Southeast Asia take on average 1 to 2 years to develop their regional infrastructure master plans. We all agree that Africa needs to trade more with itself. And this is why we have the African Free Trade Zone organization. But how does Africa trade with itself without properly developed infrastructure? That's the biggest challenge. Take an example. How does Kenya trade with the Central African Republic? Between Central African Republic and Kenya, there's only South Sudan. But how do you take your goods there? There's no infrastructure. To export your Kenyan tea, you have to get a ship that will go from Mombasa around the Cape and then travel along the west coast to Cameroonian port of Douala, and then by road to Bangui. The English and the French are faster there with their tea. That's why in Bangui they drink English tea, Kenyan tea, christened as English breakfast tea. The same thing with the coffee, and so on. Yet it is easier to be able to, if we were to develop the lapset and cut across, we'll be able to access that market. We also agree that liberalization policies alone will not be sufficient to drive the intra-African trade. To realize our potential in intra-African and regional trade, we must invest in appropriate transport, energy, and ICT infrastructures as a matter of priority. Regional priority projects, therefore, need to be incorporated in national development plans and also get prioritized in the regional economic communities' infrastructure master plans. Each country must play its role for meaningful regional integration and trade to be realized. The Lamu Port, South Sudan, Ethiopia Transport Corridor, that is LAPSET, is a good example of a regional project whose implementation has been paralyzed by the lack of national ownership and failure by regional economic communities to prioritize it. I recently convened a meeting in Addis Ababa on this issue, and I'm now encouraged by the current plans to develop a regional coordination transboundary mechanism that will go a long way in helping the implementation of this critical corridor. At least at the meeting in Addis Ababa, we agreed to set up a secretariat that can now coordinate the implementation of this project. This project is aimed at first putting up a port which has already been partly put in Lamu, constructing a road, a highway that will pass through Kenya, branches one to Addis Ababa, and then another one to Juba in South Sudan. That is phase one. Phase two will connect Juba to Khartoum, and therefore going all the way to Cairo. And the other one will connect Juba through Bangui to Cameroonian port of Kribi, and therefore creating a land bridge that will connect the Atlantic Ocean and the Indian Ocean, and opening the 16 landlocked countries within the interior of the continent to trade. The continental free trade will only be realized if the regional economic communities are effective in their role of facilitating regional economic integration between members of the region. The RECs must appreciate their critical role as the basis for wider African integration. Infrastructure projects that cut across national boundaries and are regional can all be developed simultaneously, with each country committing to do its part, while the RECs provide supporting and coordinating roles. With that spirit, the Kisumu-Malaba-Kampala standard gauge railway line can be done in a fairly short time if Kenya and Uganda each commit to developing their respective segments. Likewise, the Ethiopia-Sudan power transmission interconnector can be accomplished fairly quickly with each of the countries doing their part. The Nairobi-Mogadishu fiber optic link, likewise, can be developed simultaneously on the Somalia and Kenyan sides. The Lapset crude oil pipeline is yet another example of a project that could be accomplished in a relatively short time if the three footprint countries can act collectively and implement it concurrently. Many times, we are so confined to our national boundaries that we miss the potential we have by working closely together. If you just open up your eyes and look beyond your national boundaries, you will see that there's a bigger potential because you've got a bigger market for the goods that you're producing in your own country. The days we were talking about import substitution are gone. We need to ensure that our economies grow beyond our boundaries, and we need to cherish the regional market that we have. Ethiopia is only stronger with a stronger Kenya, a stronger Sudan, a stronger Eritrea, a stronger South Sudan, Uganda, and so on. Likewise, the same thing with Uganda, and so on. So as a region, we are all stronger together. The 8 IGAD countries together have a population close to 300 million people, sitting on an ocean shoreline of 11,600 kilometers that has significant potential for blue economy. We are sitting on underexploited minerals with evidence of sizable amounts of platinum, silver, gold, soda ash, limestone, iron ore, phosphate, copper, and zinc across the IGAD region. Together we have a tremendous potential in oil and gas, geothermal energy, and hydro and solar power generation. These natural resources need to be exploited, harnessed, and developed urgently for the benefit of the present and future generations. The population of close to 200 million youth in the IGAD countries are getting restless, as is the case in the rest of the continent. They can no longer afford to wait for skills and meaningful jobs. This is why we must act with a sense of urgency. Delivery of infrastructure on a regional scale remains a sure bet to spur trade and manufacturing that creates jobs. Let us think on regional and continental scale. We have 16 landlocked countries on the continent. Only regional integration will link them to the external world and open them up for trade and investment. Africa is not the only continent with landlocked countries. I've lived in Europe. You've got countries like the Czech Republic, Switzerland, Hungary, and so all those countries in Central Europe are all landlocked. But they don't feel it. They don't feel it because their goods can find their way to the ports with a lot of ease. So we must actually cut this bureaucratic red tape and senseless spirit of nationalism. We must find ways to maximize the synergies among our states and the sub-regional bodies to speed up regional connectivity. This is especially important in the area of financing of regional infrastructure projects, which appears to be a problem. It is for this reason that I have, for the past 2 years, been advocating for the establishment of an African Fund for Infrastructure as a facility to support important and necessary project preparation and development of a pipeline of bankable infrastructure projects. And I've said that funds are available in the continent. We have got a lot of sovereign funds in many of our countries. Insurance, retirement benefit funds, which if pulled together can create a big infrastructure development fund and only invest 5% of those funds into infrastructure. It is an investment, not like a charity. And this will help us to speed up our infrastructure development. My call to action to stakeholders and participants at this important roundtable, therefore, is as follows. 1, government ministers and government experts here present must commit to implementing the short-term plan that is already in existence. 2, private sector stakeholders need to give honest feedback about the bankability of the prioritized projects. 3, donors, both bilateral and multilateral, need to commit to support specific projects of their choice. And I want to commend the role that is being played by the African Development Bank in promoting infrastructure projects development on the continent. 4, IGAD leadership must provide a clear roadmap and activities toward the short-term goals of the master plan. I thank you for inviting me to participate at this roundtable and wish you honest and fruitful conversations. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. Another round of applause, please. Your Excellency, Right Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga, it is indeed a pleasure at this juncture for me once again to call upon the Executive Secretary of IGAD to make a short presentation to you in a way of reminding you of this day. And if I could just ask the Chief of Staff from the Office of the Executive Secretary to help us with this very brief ceremony. Fourth Estate, if you could come, I think you can block a little bit, you are loud now. So what is being presented is a token of appreciation to His Excellency, Right Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga. It reads, from IGAD, in recognition of His Excellency, Right Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga, the AU High Representative for Infrastructure Development in Africa, as a true champion of regional infrastructure development in the Greater Horn of Africa, done on the 23rd November 2021 in Nairobi, Kenya. Thank you very much, Your Excellencies. Thank you very much. Our next event is we are going to change the program a bit. We didn't want to overwhelm you. It had been indicated that we'd go into a high-level roundtable panel discussion. We're going to do that, but not for 2 hours. We want to bear with you. It's been a long day this morning, and now we're getting into the afternoon. And therefore, I want to call upon the moderator of this session, Bonnie Tunya, who is an editor with the BBC in charge of co-production and partnerships based here in Nairobi, who will moderate this particular session for about an hour. So, welcome, my brother. The floor is yours, and your panelists are ready. So our chief guest has been called upon to another emergency session elsewhere. So we are going to reconvene, if you can just stand and stretch for about 10, 15 minutes, and then we'll convene for the panel discussion. Excuse me, and I beg your pardon. So we'll reconvene in 10 minutes, which will be at exactly 11:10. Thank you.